So in January 2020, I remember just being so frustrated and sad and crying. I felt so discouraged in my career. And I can hear God whisper to me, quit your job. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm quitting my job. But then he says, why are you so afraid? And that was the reality. I was afraid to quit my job because I was so accustomed to getting a security check every 2 weeks. And now here God is telling me, don't rely on your corporate. I want you to rely on me, but I had never known God to be my provider. The very next day, I walk in and I tell my supervisor, I quit. And my supervisor's like, what? You just quit? You're not going to give us 2 weeks? And I look at God and I'm like, you didn't tell me to give 2 weeks.
Hello, amazing humans, and welcome to episode number 288 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast, where today we are talking all things transformation. Now, if you're thinking transformation like Tony Robbins or the way that you've been taught in the past, hang on to your hats and glasses because that is not the kind of transformation we are talking about today. Today, my guest is Star Cox. She is one of the coolest people I've met. We have so much fun talking to each other. She happens to live just a couple miles away from my house, and she has created an entire business based on a personal experience she had in her own bedroom at a time when she felt really compelled to quit her job, but that didn't make logical sense. Have you ever had one of those experiences? Yeah, it's really fascinating. And I want you to know if you are watching this or listening to this right now because somebody sent you this episode, first of all, you need to thank them, whoever they are. And secondly, I'm going to bet they sent it to you because there are so many universal messages in the interview that you are about to hear between the two of us. So, as you know, I was raised Mormon. Or maybe you didn't know, you know now. I was raised Mormon and I am not religious at all now in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, I really kind of bristle when someone mentions religion. It's something I'm always working on to heal, but it's not something I've completely healed yet. I'll just be super clear about that. And here comes the amazing Star who uses the word God constantly as her divine source of inspiration. So I want you to understand that I, in listening to this, the first couple times that Star and I were speaking, I was like, God, oh my goodness. And what we talked about today is what that actually means to her and what it might mean to you. And I think it's important that you work on this with me. I'm going to invite you to come work with me if the word God bristles you, or even religion's a little bit tough, or maybe you have no issue with those words. You might be interested in how I view it now. There were so many moments here where the two of us got to play together and expand into what it means to tap into creativity, what it means to tap into like a source like energy, or, you know, those moments of inspiration where you're like, where the heck did that come from? All of that gets covered in today's episode in so many different ways. And we have the best time coming back from our two really different perspectives and connecting what we've learned and how we relate to it. And I have a feeling you're going to be doing the same thing for your business before this episode's even over. Shamara Star Cox is a TV producer and marketing coach who's helped successful 6 and 7-figure coaches and business owners get seen, get paid, and live free by creating binge-worthy videos on social media. With over a decade in film and TV, including 4 years as a producer at a major network, Star walked away from it all when God called her to something greater. By applying biblical principles to her content, she quickly scaled to 6 figures. And now she's here to help you step into your next level of visibility, credibility, and profitability. So you can see already just from her bio who she is and what she brings. You're going to have so much fun listening to this episode. This is two friends sitting down having a great time. We're so happy you're here with us. And if you are new to the Game On Girlfriend podcast, welcome. I hope you really enjoy this episode with Star Cox. Go ahead, pop in those earphones and let's get to it. Star, welcome to the Game On Girlfriend podcast. Oh, girl, I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Thank you. Me too. I mean, when you were on my podcast, Wisdom to Wealth, just everything that you shared was so amazing. I love how we were able to connect. And I'm like, yes, we got to do this again. So now we get to do it again.
The best. Like, do we have the best jobs in the world? Can we just take a second of gratitude and just be like, you guys, this is our job, the best.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah. It's like we get paid to meet people. I feel like that's the best part about what we do. We get paid to meet people, and not just any people, people just like us.
Really cool people. Not that we're cool, but we get to meet really cool people.
Right.
I love it. Well, I'm thrilled to talk to you today. I'm really looking forward to where this conversation is going to go. I think the people listening are really going to love it as well. And before we jump into all the gooey goodness, like, oh my gosh, there's so many topics I can't wait to talk to you about. But before we jump in, let's really look into, or can you share with us, out of all the things that you could have done with this one beautiful life that you have, why is this what you've chosen to do with your life?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I feel like there's a future answer and a past answer to get to the present answer.
Mm.
Let me give you the future answer first, because this is just the stepping stone to where I'm going. So,
Mhm.
like in the future, I'll have like my own talk show. I'll be affecting people on stages, traveling around the world, speaking. And in order to get there, I had to be here. But in order to get here, I had to quit my job as a TV producer. And that's like where my journey actually starts. So I'll probably go into that now. If you don't have another question, I can go
Let's
right.
go. Well, I mean, first of all, I just want to pause for a second. You guys heard it here first. When Star's famous and none of us can access her, can you just remember you heard it here first? Okay. Yes.
Oh,
Now I do want to
Sarah,
hear all the stories.
you'll still be able to access me, Sarah. You will. What about everybody else? I forget about the little people. No, I'm kidding.
What is it like? Who you meet on the way up is who you meet on the way back down, right?
Exactly.
No. But I'll be loving up on you as that happens. I'm so excited. But yeah, I'd love to hear the story. It sounds like there's quite the story in how that actually happened, how you left your last job.
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked in television for over a decade.
Mm.
And actually, being in television was something that I always wanted to do ever since I was in high school, actually. So as a kid, I used to write stories and notebooks. And do you remember composition notebooks when we were growing up? I used to write novels and it like handwritten novels from page to page. And my friends used to love it. And so
Mm.
one of my friends, she sent it to her father. Her father sent it to his best friend. And he was like, this is good enough to be on television.
Oh my gosh.
Prob Right, I probably was, like, 15 years old when he said that.
Shut the
Oh,
front
no,
door.
and so
Wow.
yeah, so then he started to, like, have me typing the books out because he wanted to pitch it as television shows, and although it never went anywhere, he planted a bug in me that my stories was good enough to be on television, so I started chasing that dream ever since, and so after I graduated from college, it took a while, but I finally broke into the TV industry. Like, the happiest person ever. I finally became an associate producer. This is probably, like, 2016. I'm an associate producer. I just turned 30, and I'm like, "Yes, I finally made it in my career." And then 4 years later, God's like, "Quit your job."
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, "Who's quitting their job? Not I'm not quitting their job. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me." But I remember after during the 4 years at this TV company, as much as I loved producing television, I didn't like being undervalued. I didn't like
Mm.
being overlooked, and I definitely didn't like being underpaid. It really felt like I was fighting to get to the top of this career, and this door just never seemed to open for me of where I wanted to go next. Because eventually I wanted to be CEO of NBC, but God was like, "You're thinking too small. Okay, my plan versus God's plan." Right?
Oh, doesn't it always go that way too? I
Yes,
love
always.
that.
Yeah. So in January 2020, I remember just being so frustrated and sad and crying. I felt so discouraged in my career.
Mm.
And I just, I had it in my heart. I'm going to go home and have a pity party. That's what I was thinking. But the whole day, as I'm thinking of having a pity party, there's this song just playing in my head. I don't know the lyrics and I don't remember how it went, but during that day, it's just playing in my head. And so after the day ends at work, I'm thinking to myself, let me just put the song in my ears so I can finally get it out of my head.
Mhm.
And I listened to the song, and the lyrics said, "Praise until the power of the Lord comes down." And I realized in that moment that God was telling me, I don't want you to go home and have a pity party. I want you to go home and have a praise party. And so I went home. I wrote a note on my door that said, "Don't come in unless you're going to praise with me." And I put it on the door and then I just start praising. I mean, I'm going in. I'm like singing, I'm dancing, you name it. I'm doing all the dances. I've never done anything like this before. I've never experienced anything like this before. But
Mm.
I'm like, this is what he said to do. So this is what I'm going to do. And that night, as I'm praising and crying and praising, I'm like, you said your power would come down. I felt this presence just push me against my furniture. And I
Mm.
remember thinking to myself, I think I'm supposed to fall now. And I fall to the ground, and this cold air encircles my body. And this air comes from nowhere. Like there's no windows open because it's January and my door is closed. So this cold air is just circling my entire body. And I can hear God whisper to me, "Quit your job." And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm quitting my job. But then he says, why are you so afraid? And that was the reality. I was afraid to quit my job because I was so accustomed to getting a security check every 2 weeks. And now here God is telling me, don't rely on your corporate. I want you to rely on me. But I had never known God to be my provider. Actually, I've never even had a physical encounter with him until this day. So here I am reading about the God in the Bible most of my life. And my first encounter was in 2020, physical encounter where he's telling me to quit my job. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, Lord, I'm about to step out on faith. And I'm going to need you to remind me that this actually happened because I would think that this was a dream
Yeah. I
because it
get
was
that.
so crazy how it happened. And so the very next day, I walk in and I tell my supervisor, I quit. And my supervisor's like, what? You just quit? You're not going to give us 2 weeks? And I look at God and I'm like, you didn't tell me to give 2 weeks. I
Like,
didn't
dude,
know.
where's the footnote? Yeah.
Yeah, you just said to quit. So I just quit. And then God was like, you could give 2 weeks. So I ended up giving 2 weeks. And on the last day that I'm there, HR calls me. And HR's like, honey, they're about to make you an offer and there's room to negotiate. Ask for whatever you want, right? But prior to her calling me, God asks me a question. So I'm on the train. So I live in New York. Oh, you know this. I live in New York City,
Yeah.
right? So I'm on the train headed to Times Square because that's where I was working. And no, Grand Central Station. That's where I was headed. And God, before I get the phone call, God asks me a question. He says, what do you want? And I say to him, I want financial freedom. And that's it. He just ends it right there. Then I get the phone call to tell me, hey, they're about to make you an offer and you can negotiate for whatever you want. I walk into my supervisor's office. She's the VP at this time. And she's like, we want to offer you a 13.5K increase to stay
Mm.
because we really appreciate you. And I'm thinking to myself, God, you totally set this up so I can get an increase. This is amazing. And God reminds me in that moment,
Mm.
you asked for financial freedom. You didn't ask for a 13.5K increase.
Oof.
And in my mind, I just knew it didn't matter what number I gave, I was never going to be free. And I wanted to choose the path that God had for me because he gave me options. He said, you can take the 13.5K increase, or you can choose to break the spirit of fear in your family. And I'm thinking to myself, what does that even mean?
Oh, wow.
But I knew that
Yes.
13.5, right? I'm like, I knew 13.5 was still going to mean bondage. And so I chose to break the spirit of fear in my family, and I chose to walk the route of financial freedom. And that set me on the path to, over the next 8 months after quitting my job, this is during COVID now. So I quit January 2020 before COVID is even,
A thing.
happening, right? And then by March 2020, the whole world shuts down. And I'm like, okay, God. But for 8 months, I'm just at God's feet. I'm learning how to hear him speak. I'm learning how to do healing and deliverance. I'm learning how to operate in the prophetic, like all the spiritual things. I'm learning all of these things with God. And then in October 2020, God tells me to start creating content full time. And I'm like, what a bizarre change of events. Like for 8 months, I'm just at your feet, learning all about you and all these spiritual things. And then you tell me start creating content full time. I would think that I should start looking for another job. But in me creating content full time, I started going viral and I'm watching my follower count go up. My bank account is not. So at this
Mhm.
point, I'm like, Lord, my follower count is going up, but my bank account isn't. Like, what is going on? And he says to me, because you have nothing to offer. So at this point, we're at June 2021. And I realized that God is telling me, start your business. Whew, thank God I listened to the whispers of God because it walks me right into wealth. After I started my business, I was able to build my business to 6 figures. I mean, of course, I had coaching, I had to learn, I had to fail, all those things, but I built to 6 figures and kept building ever since. And what I did was I took all my skills that I learned in television production, everything that I learned from God, I married them together to create Bible marketing secrets and started teaching business owners how they can do marketing from the Bible the way that Jesus did in order to grow their business, grow their brand so that they can be successful and wealthy. And why that helped me so much is because I grew up, I think I told you this before, but I grew up with a poverty mindset. And I grew up in a church setting where we didn't believe that God wanted us to be rich. And it's not that they didn't talk about it. No, it's not that they ever said that. It's just that they never talked about it. And we always just had that one scripture that was always misquoted, which was money is the root of all evil. So I truly believe that in my soul, but it wasn't until I was walking with God that he started to show me, first of all, I want you to be rich, but just not just rich. I want you to be righteously rich and I want you to be wealthy.
Mm.
And I don't want you to just be it. I want this for my people, right? So I want you to teach them this. And so that's what set me on this journey. And there were days that I felt like, God, I'm supposed to be on television. Like, what am I doing on social media? This makes no sense. And he kept showing me, like, this is just your stepping ground. And this
Mm.
brings us back to where I'll be in the future. But here's where I am now. That's where I was before to get here today.
Oh my God. I think I got chills like 5 different times during that story. I was like, it was like rush of chills. Like, whoa. Because one of the things that came up for me when you said God told me to quit my job, I'm like, what, how? Like, what does that sound like? And then you ended up sharing that story. But I still have that question for you, Star. Like, I talk so much about intuition. I call it, I was raised calling the whispers of God in the religion. I was raised in always the still small voice. And that's actually what I call our intuition now is the still small voice. It's always the softest voice in the room that you can ignore very quickly, that we have to train ourselves to listen to. When you say God talks to you, you learn from God, what is that experience like? Like, I really want to understand that, what you are experiencing in those moments.
Yeah.
Is it actual words? Is it like nudges? Like, fill me in. I have to understand this. I think this is so cool.
And thank you for asking this question. This is my specialty. I literally just came back from Costa Rica teaching women how to hear God speak. This is what God taught me. So he talks in many different ways, right? So he talks through visions, he talks through dreams, and you probably get visions now and you don't realize it, but that's God speaking. He talks through music, he talks
Mm.
through internal intuition. Sometimes it's a whisper in your ear, it's a voice in your head. Sometimes it's a movement in your heart. Sometimes it is birds chirping outside your window just as you choose to listen, right? But what really matters is being in tune in that moment. So in 2020, he was actually teaching me how to hear him speak, and he used 2 ways in the moment that he told me to quit my job. One was wind. So this was wind out of nowhere. And so in the Bible, wind represents Holy Spirit, right? And so if you don't know that, you'll feel wind and think that it's just random, but it's not. Because in 2020, God actually started teaching me the different direction of wind, like the physical wind blowing, the different direction, depending on how it's blowing, he's actually speaking. So I knew when COVID was here, I just didn't know it was COVID, but I also knew when COVID was leaving because of how wind was blowing. And it started with his wind just encircling my body. So that's one thing. And then the other thing was the internal intuition, right? But the internal intuition can show up in different ways in your body. So paying attention to what your body is doing is important, right? So God also speaks through our emotions. So for me in that moment, it was a voice in my head that said, quit your job. But I can feel a presence right
Mm.
next to me. And oftentimes we ignore the spiritual world because we can't explain it, right?
Mm.
I live in the spiritual world. We all live in the spiritual world because we are spirit beings. And so I can feel this presence. And now the question is, I have to discern, is this a good presence? Is this an evil presence? But in that moment, I knew I was with God. So I knew that it was God that was with me. But
Mm.
those 3 things is what lets me know that God was speaking in that moment. But the only reason why I was able to say this, that it was God, is because of faith. And oftentimes people don't
Mm.
have enough faith to be like, this is God. Like they'll hear the voice and they'll be like, was that me? Was that something else? And when I'm teaching people to hear God speak, I'm like, no, you got to have faith that this is God speaking to you. So that's
Mm.
how it was for me.
Mm. Chills again. I love that. Okay, so wait, I do have a question for you in that because I get chills all the time, and I've always understood chills to mean you're hearing the truth. I'd
Yeah.
love to know in all your
And
training, did you learn the same thing?
I did not, however, only because I know how to hear God speak. Sometimes those chills that we're getting is that we're connecting. Like,
Mm.
that, like you said, you're hearing the truth, but not only just you're hearing this truth, spirit recognizes spirit. So your spirit is recognizing my spirit in the moment. And so we're connecting in that moment. And I wouldn't be shocked if after this, we're like having a full blown conversation later on because we're connecting in that moment. So I don't get chills with random people. That wouldn't make sense. But only when my spirit like
Mm.
connects with that person, like, oh yeah, I totally understand what you're saying because my spirit is picking up on this right now.
I love that. I love that. Oh, I just had a thought I want to do with you before we wrap today. Don't let me forget because I want to do
Okay.
something with you. I think it'll be so
Okay.
fun. Okay. So I want to know more about, this is such an interesting conversation with me, Star. I have to be so honest with you. There's so many parts of me because anytime there's an organized religion, given my history, I can bristle,
Yeah.
right? And I don't have that with you at all, but I always want to like call that out and be honest about it. And I really have come to understand this feeling we're experiencing now, like this, I call it source. I don't know what else to call it, but this, and it feels very feminine to me. Right. So this is a random question. When
Mhm.
you say the word God, you use the word he. Is it really feel masculine to you? Have you ever thought about that? Like, how does that unfold for you out of total curiosity? I'm so interested to know because I feel like I'm on my own spiritual journey. And I'd love to know what you feel when you say the word God and what that presence feels like to you.
That's such a great question. Someone asked me something similar when I was at the retreat because we always see he, but we have to understand that when it comes to he and she in the Bible, when referring to God, it's not about gender, it's about an
Mm,
energy. So it's a masculine energy and a feminine energy. And you actually have to operate in the feminine to be in the spiritual world because the feminine is very emotional, right? And so
mm,
when God created male and female, he gave us both parts of him, right? He gave us the masculine and the feminine. So God has both energies, but it has nothing to do with gender. And I know sometimes we tend to take it like gender, and that's because of just a patriarchal society. But when you're operating in God, you recognize like he's not showing up as a he, as in he's trying to dominate me, but just like this is a
mm,
masculine energy in this moment. It has to do with authority and positioning. That's the best way
mm,
I like to say it, positioning. And then the feminine also has to do with positioning, but my positioning is slightly different because I'm positioned in the spiritual. So oftentimes when I'm positioned in the masculine, that's in the physical. And then when I'm positioned in the feminine, it's in the spiritual. So like I'm
mm,
feeling more, I'm seeing more visions. It's an emotional connection that I have. Let me know
mm.
if that was clear.
No, I got it. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
And I think I totally agree with you. I don't think it's gender either. I think it's expression. And as I've been really diving into my own spiritual journey in the last several months, it's been that the receiving energy is so feminine,
Yes.
right? And to really receive, being aware
Mhm.
in the moment of what's happening. So I've been seeing that as feminine, right? Because you're receiving what's actually being delivered. And then for me, the masculine comes in when I take action on it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's
Yep.
been this feminine masculine
Yeah.
balance. It's just been so cool. But yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. I'm so glad I asked you.
We should be able to flow in both because that's how God is. Like he
Mm,
doesn't like for me and how we walk together, he doesn't like show up more than the other. They both are there because I have to be able to be in my feminine to hear him and to be able to receive from him.
yeah.
And he had to heal me from that because when
Mm,
I was growing up, I always wanted to be a guy. I know now why, because my father wanted a boy. And so he rejected me in a sense because I wasn't a boy, but then I also saw like boys got certain types of treatment, and so I always wanted to be a guy. And God was like, baby girl, I got to heal you from this. There's so much power in being a woman. And it's not
mm,
doesn't mean that we're less than just because we are female. So it's good
mm.
to operate in both.
That's powerful messaging, right?
Mhm.
And there's so much we all have to heal from childhood, right? There just is. And I think in fine tuning this ability to hear,
Yes.
this ability to receive, there's a lot of healing going on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where the healing is going to take place, honestly. Like God wants to heal our emotions. Like sometimes I used to grow up hearing things like, you can't trust your emotions. And at one point I couldn't. Like God did tell me I couldn't, but that's because it was tainted. Like
Mm,
I was bullied also when I was a kid, and because I was sensitive, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of us go through that. But it wasn't until God started to show me that the enemy used that so that my emotions will be shut down, so that I couldn't hear God speak, but God very much speaks through our emotions. So he had to heal that so that now I can trust my emotions when it's coming through. I can sense like, is this God speaking? And not just is God speaking, is it me or is it someone else? Because
mhm,
especially I know like in the physical world, they have terms like the empath, but in the Christian world, we have terms like the feeler. Right. And so like we will feel our way through a realm so we can pick up the spirits and emotions of other people. And God wants us to know like sometimes it's not you, but you have to be able to discern. You can't do that if your emotions are shut down.
I think that's so true. I think, God, here we are, the only species on the planet who has emotion,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, what are these for? I always say, they're so here to help us understand what's going on internally. Absolutely. But there are things you can't explain through language. Not many things. We learn how, and we love the artists on the planet now who can explain through words, but it's challenging.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
true.
that's so cool. So I want to know more, given this journey that you have been on, that is incredible. And then you turn this into combining what you've learned spiritually and combining it with all of your media experience, which is so stinking cool. We're always on the path, aren't we? Even when we
Yeah.
have no idea, always.
Exactly.
And with this, you now have taken this. I want to understand more how you teach marketing and combine that with the Bible because that makes my brain explode. I'm like, how do we do that? Like, where is that? I want to hear all about this. And I'd love to know more about how you've come to understand not only that this is your job, but how to communicate it. Because I think that's even harder,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And so my journey with that actually started in 2021, where God sent me two coaches. And both of my coaches, they were teaching Bible, they were teaching business from the Bible. And I thought to myself, what? I didn't know that was a thing. Because when I was growing up in church, it was just the Bible. Jesus died for your sins, and that's it. Like, that's it. But I
Mm.
also always heard that the Bible can be used for every aspect of your life. I just never saw it until that day in 2021. And so I said to God, well, if they can do that with business, I want you to teach me content in Christ. Show me
Oh,
how to do that so I
interesting.
can teach others. And so when he
Huh.
started doing that, so I would read scriptures, and there was a question that Holy Spirit asked me. One day I was brushing my teeth, and he said, how many followers did Jesus have? And I'm like, 12 off the back, 12 disciples. No, 5,000. No, I'm a follower today. And I was like, unlimited. That was it. He just asked me that question and it hit me. I was like, oh
Mm.
my goodness, we're on social media, we're growing our following. How did Jesus grow his following? And I started to study, what did Jesus do to grow his following? The first thing he did was he went town to town. So he didn't stay in one place, he went town to town. And when he spoke, he had a clear messaging, right? So in Matthew 11:28, we get the first part of his messaging, which is understanding the pain points of his dream client. He says, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, for I will give you rest. Right. So he called his people by pain. That was a pinnacle part of his messaging. And I'm like, oh, that's what I need to do. I need to call my people by pain. So I started identifying what their pain points were and I started
Oh my
speaking
gosh.
it and they started to come. Okay. So now that they came, what do we do next? The next thing that Jesus did was he connected with them. And he connected with them by telling parables. These parables are stories. So I understood, okay, I need to tell stories in order to relate to my audience. So as I started telling the stories, I started to study Jesus's stories, right? He didn't tell stories just for the sake of it. He told stories with the goal of transformation.
Mm.
So my thing now, I started to understand what was the transformation I wanted each one of my dream clients to get after I told a story. And I started telling my story that way. I call these stories selling secrets because our goal is to sell to our audience. The transformation is to get them to make a buying decision.
Mm.
So now when I'm telling stories, I'm like, what part of their identity do I want them to shift, right? This is also called overcoming objections because Jesus
Yes.
had to do
I've heard
that.
of that. Yes.
Yeah. He had to overcome objections too.
Yeah.
So I started doing that in storytelling. But
Oh
not
my
only
gosh.
that, like when he met the disciples for the first time, and this is found in Luke 5, he met the disciples for the first time. They had been fishing all night. They couldn't catch any fish at all. And he walks up to them and he gives them the solution. So the first thing I noticed is that he saw that they had a need. So I always tell my clients, like, what is the need of your people?
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
And then he met that need. He didn't meet a future need. Sometimes we're trying to solve what's going on in the future, but really our audience needs to know how we can help them right now in this moment. So with our content, your content should be solving problems right now. They should be getting quick wins right now. The disciples didn't have to wait 3 years to see the manifestation. They saw it in that moment. Why? Because it's important that when you're helping people, they see you as the truth. When they see
Mm.
you as the truth, then they want to buy from you, right? And
Mm.
so here, Jesus, he helped them get a quick win. They caught a lot of fish. But after they caught the fish, he gave them this really important next step, which was the call to action. He said, follow me, for I will make you fishers of men. And a lot of us, after we're done with our content, we need to include our call to action so our audience knows what's next, but not just like, comment, follow, subscribe. We want to give them a reason to do it. Like Jesus said,
Mm.
follow me, for I will make you fishers of men. That was another transformation. So here I help you get this quick win. But if you want a long lasting transformation, this is where you want to take your next step.
Mm.
All of that in the Bible. I mean, I have so much. I could do this all day long.
You're like, how much longer you want to hear about this?
Right.
I'm like blown away right now. Like that is so, because of course, look, I teach marketing too, right? We all know this stuff. Like I have never, because I know all the stories in the Bible as well, given the way I
Yep.
was raised, I
Yep.
have never put that together. Are you a genius or what?
That was
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And I was thinking too, I was just doing this in effortless sales. One of my courses, we're in the middle of that right now. And I was rereading the four agreements. You want to talk about messages, right? I was sitting here one afternoon writing and it was like, go get the four agreements. I'm like, oh, okay. So like my library is just down the street. I take the 5 minute, I get it. I come back. And I'm reading through it, and it was a reminder. The part that I ended up reading was this reminder that the word sin actually means any unkindness to yourself. I was
Yeah.
like, well, hold on. I can buy into that. That is a like definition. And then what you just did. So that was just like this one little thing that sometimes people can have a hard time with when we start talking about God or religion. And I'm
Mhm.
speaking from my own experience, right? Like you can kind of tense up and go, oh, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And I think that the way that sin was described in that book, right? In the Four Agreements, boy, can we get that, right? I think you and I both teach just self trust, and we know
Yeah.
the power of that. But then also to take all of those stories in the Bible and understand how universal they really are,
Yep.
right? And what you said even earlier about faith. I happen to believe that absolute certainty, also known as faith, right? Like all these names for the same
Yeah.
tool, right? It's just absolutely necessary for business success.
It is.
You just have to have it. Yeah.
Yep. I have noticed that when I started this journey, I have met more Christians who are business owners
Huh.
than anywhere else. Like it didn't matter how long I grew up in the church. I meet more Christians who are business owners because you need faith to be on this
Mm,
journey. I also recognize that even people who aren't Christians, and that's totally fine, because we have a spiritual connection, right?
mhm.
That we are also walking together. We may believe certain two different things, but in the same way, we're walking this path together. So we have certain spiritual experiences if we allow ourselves to, of course. We have
Mm.
certain spiritual experience that connects us to, right? And so you had mentioned the word religion. And for me, I'm just like, just not a fan of it, right? People will hear me speak and they'll be like, she's so religious. I'm actually not. I'm very
Nope.
spiritual in
Yeah.
the sense of Holy Spirit is leading me. Like that's what I mean when I say
Mm,
spiritual. But religion to me, and I'm just going to talk about the spirit of religion, not religion
mhm.
as a whole, but there's a spirit behind religion, right? And that spirit is very controlling.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why a lot of people end up leaving the church. And so what I believe God did was he said, let me call my people out of the church and into the marketplace. And so he'll plant us in the marketplace where we can minister the word of God without having to like, you have to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. Like I never do that with anyone. I just show them this is how Jesus did it. And oftentimes when I'm talking, it's someone who either used to believe in God,
Mm.
heard something about God. And when they receive him that way, it's like, oh, it's okay for me to like learn more as opposed to what if I don't accept him? My soul is condemned to hell. Like I just don't like messages like that. And I told God that I will never teach messages like that because that's not how he taught me. Like I
Mm.
grew up in a church where they taught hellfire and I was afraid, like
Of
really
course. Well,
afraid.
how could you
Oh,
not be?
okay.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and then I remember when I recommitted my life back to God, I was mad. I was like, I'm not talking to you, God. I feel bamboozled. I'm only here because I'm afraid to go to hell. And then that was my fate. I was
Oh,
22.
I love it. I love the
And
honesty.
God
Yeah.
was like, he was like, no, baby girl, that's not how it works. And then he started to show me through love and grace. Like more people are
Mm,
converted through love and grace than they ever are through
mm.
condemnation and hellfire. And so I will always stand on that message.
I love that. I feel the same way. I mean, you and I have a similar background that way. I do think that religion, as it became established, I've always said if we leave things to mankind, humanity, we tend to mess it up a little bit. See nature. Anyway, yeah. So like we don't always handle like the most beautiful, pristine things that well. And I think religion happens to be one of those. And I think it goes hand in hand with the patriarchy. Like we were saying earlier about the masculine and feminine, it has become so masculine and authoritarian and dictatorial. And it just feels so the opposite of what openness and receiving and love seem to feel like. So that's so interesting. It's amazing to me. I mean, look at how different our backgrounds are, Star, and we had such similar
Oh my
experiences.
goodness. And
It's
that is
so powerful.
that's
Yeah.
the beauty in how God created us. Like I had prayed a prayer to God a long time ago, and I said, Lord, show me how to love my children the way that you love us, in the sense that
Mm,
we are all created differently, but we're all human, right? So, like snowflakes, it's snow, but each flake is different. So each flake should be treated differently. And so I show up that way, even with people, even when I'm working with my businesses. No business is the same. Doesn't matter if you are doing the same thing or similar things. I just show up and I cater to that one person, that one
mm,
business because cookie cutter is not going to work for humans. It shouldn't work for humans, right?
no.
Like we're all created differently. Our personality is different. Like I have many marketing strategies, and like one of my strategies is teaching my clients how to go live and make sales. And another one is teaching them how to do pre-recorded content and make sales. One of my clients hated going live. So she made her sales through pre-recorded content. Another one of my clients loved going live. So she made her sales through live. I teach the strategies but based on your personality, how
Mm.
you attract your people, that's how you want to use it. But that's how we should show up, period, in life. Like we should just show up that way and love people the way that they were created to be loved and honor each person's personality and how they show up.
You're making my heart sing, Star. I love it. I could not agree with you more. I just am thrilled with this conversation. And I think you're just giving us all permission, not only to be ourselves, but to remember that's actually vital to success. And I think we can forget that. Like we get into, speaking of cookie cutter, right? We get into the compare and despair thing, especially in what you're doing, right? With through the media, it's like, oh, well, I have to have my hair like this and I have to look like that and I have to say it
Mhm.
this way. And I think that's actually how we disappear,
Yeah,
right? Because then you're just like everyone else. You're
exactly.
vanilla and they can't find your flavor. Like they don't know what to do with you. Yeah. Yeah.
That
I think
part.
that's so important.
And the saddest part about it is like, and I always tell people this, like your people that you're attracting, they're attached to your voice. So they're attached to your DNA. If you show up like someone else, they're not going to come. So you
Mm,
have to show up like you. Like for me, depending on the setting, I'm like this. I like being loud and I'm very animated. I use my hands and I like to go into my ghetto girl sometimes. But my audience, they love it. Like they absolutely love it. If I showed up just all composed all the time, maybe I might attract people, but I want to be free in me. I like the bright colors. Like it's just best to be you because people are attracted to that. And I remember having a client who said to me, I want to do what you do, but my personality is not like yours. And I said, it doesn't have to be.
thank
Like
goodness.
the
Right.
people,
Yeah. Like,
exactly. Yeah. And the
yeah.
people who are attracted to her probably won't like me. And that's okay.
That's as
That's
it should be, actually, right? We're
yep.
not supposed to attract every single person because
No,
then I always say that. Like, could you imagine if we were all firefighters? It's like, who do we call when we have a heart attack? Like,
that part.
we can't,
Yeah.
like, that's not a thing.
True.
We can't all be doing the same thing. It's not,
No,
it's just,
no.
and even when we're teaching the same thing or we're in the same industry, it still has to be different, right? Like there are
Absolutely.
4 different Italian restaurants in my
Yeah.
neighborhood. I'm like, oh my God, you can't throw a cat without hitting an Italian restaurant, right? And it's like, but this one I go to for pizza, and this one I go to for pasta, and this one I love the fish dish, and this one I love their bread. Like that's how it's supposed to go. That's right. That's correct.
Yes.
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 So thank you so much for sharing that. And I did this with the Abundance Academy just this morning. This is the idea I had earlier. Are you game?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
down.
So I send daily prompts to the Abundance Academy every day and just think about this. And this is our month for stillness and manifesting. And I did this morning and I just had this overwhelming urge to do it with you. Is that cool?
Yeah, I'm totally down.
Oh my gosh. All right. Everybody
I don't
listen.
even know
Okay.
what it is. I'm like,
I
let's
don't
do
either. You're like, yes, let's do it. It's like 30 seconds. It's no big deal. But if you're driving, don't play with us. If you're working out, just drop the weights for a second. If you're on a walk, hold still for 2 secs. Okay. All right. Okay. So close your eyes and put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly so you can feel them. And then just take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And I will stay quiet for as long as you need. What is your soul asking you to do today?
Okay, so my soul today is asking me to just to be present in my body and to feel my emotions.
I love that.
This is important to me too.
Oh,
So
I love that. Oh, that was so good. Thank you for doing that with me. All
I
right.
love that she did that because I do that
Mm,
every morning.
get out of town.
Every morning I do it. It's how I ground myself. And then it's how I get to listen to myself and what it is that I want. And so like I thought you were gonna ask me what do I see? Because as soon as I closed my eyes, I started seeing something and I'm like, then you asked something else. I said, oh, okay. That's not what she says.
The stress was gone. No, I mean, I can't believe you do that every morning. I just had this really strong impression when you were talking. I'm like, oh, let's do that together today. That is so beautiful. And I love that it was to be
Yes.
present. So
Yes.
great.
Yes. I want to explain that if you're okay with me sharing why it was to be.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So like, I'm typically a very excited person, but lately I have just been going, and by lately, I mean for the last year and a half, I've been going through these spells of sadness, right?
Mm,
And at first I would try to just ignore it, but then I realized sadness comes from God, right? It's an emotion that I can feel. But lately, like just recently, the last couple of days, I have just been realizing I just need to listen to this sadness. Like, what is it telling me? Where is it coming from? And so that's what the being is today. Just like there's a hurt there. And I've been praying that I want this hurt to be healed, right? And like, I know that it's going to make me stronger. I know that it's going to refine my character. And so instead of just being on the go and trying to race through the day and ignore it, just be and be present.
Oh, I felt that. Oh, I felt that. Yeah. I too, I've really been learning how to be still lately too. It's why we're doing that in the Abundance Academy. But yeah, that stillness is so powerful, isn't it? I really felt what you just said. And boy, do we as humans, we have it like being sad is bad.
Oh, my goodness.
We really do. It's like you're supposed to be happy all the time. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and it sounds bizarre,
Yeah.
first of all, but yeah, we do have it in our minds that sad is bad. I remember this was probably fall 2023. God told me that the opposite of sadness is not joy. Right. And he said, joy is not the absence of sadness. That's what he said. And so sometimes that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, like, in order for me to truly be joyful, I can't be sad. And he's like, no, like, there is a worship that comes from your sadness. There's an entire book in the Bible called Lamentations. And that is a form of worship, and it's a sad worship. And so it's okay to be sad. It's okay to identify it. I mean, of course, if the sadness lasts a long time, you want to identify it. But I'm very, like, I can see my emotions moving through my body, starting from my feet all the way out. So if there's sadness there, it's trying to come out. And if I ignore it, it's just going to get stuck someplace. And then it's going to come out in a very odd way later on. People are going to look at me like, what's going on there? And I'm going to look at me like, what's going on there? So I try to, not even try to, every day, I just identify the emotion. What is the emotion saying to me, and allow it to pass through? Like, my body is this place for it to pass through.
So good. I'm like mesmerized right now. Yes, I love that so much. Oh, well, I hope the people listening today also, really did that exercise with us and take a second to integrate whatever it was you heard, saw, felt, thought into your day to day. Oh my gosh, Sarah, I could talk to you forever. I know you have a free gift for everybody listening. It's like learn how to create content that sells. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's my 5-day challenge. It's called Convert Content to Cash. So if you want to get access to it, all you have to do is go to contenttocashchallenge.com. You'll probably also drop the link in the show notes as well. But the challenge is really a way for us to show you how to create content that sells. In 5 days, we teach you Bible marketing secrets, what Jesus was able to do in order to grow his following and then convert his followers into believers, which is our strategy as well on social media. Grow your following, convert your followers into buyers. And buyers are just believers who believe that you can help them get their transformation. So we show you video formulas for your content. We show you how to speak deeply to your audience and how to connect with them. And this is really for business owners where you're at a certain place in your business. You may have been getting your clients through word of mouth, through referrals. You're ready to do it online, seriously, through social media, so you can reach a larger audience. That's how we help you in the 5-day challenge, Convert Content to Cash.
Love it so much. And yes, you're right. You guys, those of you watching on YouTube, that link is waiting for you right under this video. Those of you listening, it is of course in the show notes for you, as is Star's website and all of her social channels. So you can go grab her, talk to her, understand what she's teaching, go follow her, just feel good. Like, oh my God, isn't talking to Star just a blast? Like, I always feel so good whenever we talk. I'm like, oh, that's better. All right. Star, thank you so much for spending time with all of the girlfriends today. We so appreciate you. Thank you for doing your work here on planet Earth.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.